funny. Because with Kundalini awakening and energy work, spiritual enlightenment, all the different levels and shapes and things of this work, there are always going to be people that pretend to be what they're not. They can pretend to be them more than they are. And also, there are going to be people who, because of these people that pretend who they're not, the fakers, everybody will assume everybody is faking. So no matter how far you go in your awakening journey, there will always be people who will try to perhaps put you down. Try. There will always be the sort of narcissistic type of culture, which is huge in our societies, that they know best. They obviously know better than you. Even if you've been researching something for decades, they know better than you. There will always be these judgmental people that, if you come from a place of non-ego, they will say you're egotistical. It's just the way everybody's programming works. Because we are taught from a young age to be egotistical. We are taught when we go to preschool, if I want the toy, I have to fight for it. And people never come back from that core programming. They're always the right ones. You see this on social media everywhere. The opinions, the haters, the trolls. And so, how does someone recognize that when they go through an awakening, it is a truth and they're not being fooled? How do you know that something isn't fake? Well, of course, at the beginning it takes a leap of faith because you have to try it, and you have to try it unconditionally. But then how do you judge it? Well, first of all, if you go and work with a teacher, and the teacher states you're going to get to said place, or the aim is to get to said place. Now, obviously, not everybody can get there because not everybody can open up. There are some people that are judgmental. Not everybody's ready. There are some people that will get to a certain level, and it's very, very interesting because they will just go blank. They will have these experiences, but they won't remember them because they're not ready to comprehend that level of consciousness yet. But when you are ready to receive that level of consciousness and you get there, how do you know it's real? This is why I never tell, when I take people through, I never tell people what they're going to expect. But once they've experienced it, I then tell them to go and chat with other people who have been through the same experience, and not just people who have been through the experience with me, that have been through the experience with gurus, with whoever, so they can have a comparison. And when you have that comparison, time and time and time and time and time again, and you realize the people that have been through this and have got there are all talking about the same thing on the same level. Slightly different perspectives, but it's the same thing. That's when you come to truly understand that the experience you've had is real. Now, of course, if someone promises you something, There are unfortunately quite a few people out there that do this. I'm not going to name names, but they'll say, so for example, there are some people who give Shakitpat. And then they say, okay, so we do the Shakitpat, and then assuming you've eaten the right diet, well, that's the first warning sign. Eat the right diet and take some supplements. That's the first warning. No. But say you do all that. And then after the sessions, they say, okay, now over the next couple of weeks, months, whatever, as long as you keep practicing, it'll happen. Yeah. You know you've been fooled, basically. Because that is the way to say, whatever you've done, the result is up to you. Now, yes, you can be taken to the door, you don't step through the door, and that will be your choice. But that is something very different. If it's, well, we do a couple of energy sessions and then whatever comes, and that's because that teacher, that guru, that whatever you want to call them, doesn't actually know. And it's a shame, and it does happen, and it causes everybody, it's always the way. The majority is controlled by the 3%. What do I mean by this? So let's take the most simple of simple things. If you own a dog, you know that if you put your dog on a lead and take them for a walk, there are going to be, unless you've completely programmed them and trained them and broken them down into a complete fear state, created a slave drone, that lead will cause more tension and more problems between other interactions. Whereas if those dogs were allowed to be dogs, that wouldn't happen. The problem here is the way dogs work. So if you go and you put your dominance on a dog, that's one thing. But another thing is if you seek to understand the dog language and learn how dogs work. A dog, when it comes to fear, will react first for its own safety. So therefore, if there is a human that comes along that fears an animal, the animal, whether it's a dog or whatever, will perceive that fear and attack to make the space safe. That's how most animals work. Dogs have to be put on leads because of that tiny percentage of people. There are a couple of reasons here, but the main reason is because of those 3% or those 3 in a million people or dogs that fear, which creates this problem. Therefore, all dogs have to be put on leads to stop those possible dangers happening. Now, obviously, there's way more to dogs and things like that, because yes, there are some dogs that are trained to be aggressive, and some dogs, just because of their programming, become aggressive, and there's more to it. Just the way there are some humans that become violent, and it's the same thing. But the basis is that happens in so many levels of our society. We are programmed by the 3%, or not even 3%, by the 3 in a million, rather than. Again, another example. Today it's, you can't let your children play on the street. It's unsafe. Yeah, 30 years ago, kids went to the park by themselves, played, rode their bikes around all day. And has society in the past 30, 40 years changed that much? Or has the fear factor of those 3 in a million been brought far more present by the media, so everyone responds to the 3 in a million rather than allowing their children to play freely. There are so many examples of this I can give you. So many. So it is normal that first the judgmental people will come out and give their judgment, especially on social media. And I mean, I even tested this. So I put videos on my channel that have more challenging titles. And as soon as you do that, you do get more interactions, but you get all the judgmental people come out, not all of them, but you get some judgmental people come out writing their comments saying, you're being judgmental in the video. What they fail to see is they're judging, they're the ones being judgmental by writing, and they're being, with negative connotations, a lot of them, to put their opinion in because they're right. Okay? It's the way they're programmed. It's not a problem. You know, trolls will be trolls. But also thanks to those few, because again, this happens so often on social media, and so many influencers talk about this, is all the negative comments, the negative comments, the negative comments. Everybody who's a YouTuber has the problem. They are controlled by their negative comments. They might get 100 views, they might get 1 million views on a video, and that channel with 1 million views might have 100,000 likes. It tends to be about 10%. And then they might have 50 positive comments and 3 negative comments. They will the YouTuber or the Instagrammer will fixate on those 3 negative comments over the 100,000 likes. Again, this is what I'm talking about. It's the same thing. So if you take this on every level, the question is, the more you become enlightened, the more you awaken, the more you see this. The more you see this, and I'm not just talking about Kundalini awakening, I'm talking about every level of awakening. The more you see this, the more you say, just another, what some people like to call non-player characters. Because this person, it's not that they're a non-player character, it's just that this person is a mold, is a robot, and they do the same thing. And it can be person A, B, C, D, or E. And they will use the same basic manipulation, insulting, whatever tools to sort of try and put their ego on you and steal your energy, as it were. And the more you become awakened or enlightened or whatever you want to call it, on every single level, the more you can see these people, and it's just like, out of 100,000 people, there are 3 of these robots there, 3 of these judgmental people. And, you know, sometimes that percentage can change. Maybe you get 1,000 judgmental people just because something in a thumbnail, or talking about YouTube, something in a thumbnail or a title attracts those judgmental people. And when I see this there are demo videos of pranic healing, what they call Kundalini activation. And it's or tantric energy, and it's, you know, very sexual energy, and these people appear to be having a sort of orgasmic response. Now, yes, in some videos they are having energy orgasms, in others they're just clearing energy traumas. But if you go to these videos and you read the comments, those videos, a lot of them attract more negative comments than positive comments. And it's not because these things, what's happening in the video is real. A lot of people say, oh, this is false, this is fake. Other people say, oh, well, it's a man giving it to a woman. I do videos with men, with women. I don't publish a lot of those demos. But it happens it doesn't matter about male, female, it happens with everybody. But all these negative comments, just because of two things. One, people judge based on their reality, and two, because there are some fakers around, which only serves, a few fakers, but there are fakers, which only serves to give these judgmental egotists more bias towards the negative. The higher you go, the more you understand this. There's always going to be someone who calls someone egotistical. I've seen comments about some of the top gurus on the planet, the most famous ones. And there have been comments calling these people egotistical and wrong and false and fakers, and they've never gone and met these people in their life. They've never spent time with them. Sadhguru, you go and spend time and you just sit with Sadhguru. You'll know there's something there, compared to watching a video, oh, this is fake, without knowing anything about anything. It's always going to happen. But as I said, the higher you go, the more you detach from these things. And what you can't do is allow these egotistical, programmed, judgmental judgments, false beliefs, bring you down. Remember that. Subscribe to the channel. Write a comment about what you reckon. Maybe that'll trigger lots of negative judgmental comments saying, how dare you, oh, you're being so egotistical by saying that, how can you claim that you're awakened and saying these things? Yeah, okay. Whatever. I know where I am, I know what I know, I've seen what I've seen, I've been taken to places, I take people to places time and time again. You can, if you're one of those judgmental people, then judge away, you'll never get that. That's why they say it takes most people many lifetimes. You know, it's all good. If you are interested in going further via Kundalini awakenings, first of all, check out more videos on my channel, because this is another thing I find. A lot of the judgments that I get on my channel per se, people watch one video or 3 minutes of a 20-minute video, and then they're writing all these judgmental comments and everything. And a lot of the time I'm like, have you watched more than one video? Because what I say in one video cannot sum up 3 decades of education every single time. It cannot sum up 40 odd years of experience of this every single time. So before you want to go further, go and check out other videos. Go and check out my energy transmission videos. See if you connect, see what you feel. If you like that, come join a free session. I hold free live sessions once a month. Go to theawakenenergy.com. Completely free. Yeah. No whatever attached. It's free. You want to come once a month, you can come, you can join the sessions. Okay, spaces are limited, but if you get in, you get in. If you want to take it further, you can come and do more regular group sessions, which are not free. And then you can come and take a training. And when I say some things are free and some things are not, this brings me on to another point. So many people say, oh, this stuff people charge money for. Oh, you charge money for it. How can you do that? This should be free. Again, a judgment based off misguided understanding. Spiritual work throughout history, for the vast majority of time, has not been free. It has either been paid for through tithing, There are still countries on the planet that are tithed to religions. You pay, you can choose to opt out, but you pay a certain amount of your taxes to a religion. Whether you're of that religion or not, unless you specifically opt out, you are tithed to pay them. A lot of people don't know that. Tithing happens in many ways and many forms. And if you actually, again, go and do your research, spiritual work, whether religious or non-religious, has been tithed in some way, shape, or form throughout history. Because the people that dedicate their time and lives to doing this stuff have to live. Now, you might say, oh yes, but it's donation-based today. There are religions that are donation-based. Again, why did the donation-based thing start happening? Well, again, it comes back to taxes. Before, things were tithed. Then government changed the rules and said, well, tithing's going to be taxed, donations won't. So then these religions or churches, many churches within Christianity and different, then changed to donations, because if they received 50% of the money in donations rather than tithes, it was tax-free. And then, of course, they use manipulation techniques and peer pressure techniques and things to make sure you donate. A common practice in churches, they pass around this basket to put money in. And if you live in a small community and it gets passed around, and every day it gets passed around, and everyone is watching to see who puts money in it. If you don't put money in it, okay, if you're absolutely broke, people understand it. But if you're not absolutely broken, can't even afford to eat for the week, you will be judged by your community. It's a peer pressure thing to put the donation in. So all this nonsense about spiritual work or religious work, both either, whether they're the same, whether they're different. Okay, religion's gone away from spirituality, but depends on the religion. There are some religions that are still very spiritually based. You have to understand it's not free. It never has been. That is just a modern misinterpretation of how things work. There are today some that are very successful that use the donation-based system, and good for them. But some people prefer to keep it clean. Other people prefer to say if there's no exchange, then it's not a fair trade. Coming from again, there are many religions that if you wish a prayer to come true, you give an offering at the altar, whether it's a bunch of flowers, light a candle, light some incense, but you give an offering. That's where that idea has come from. So we have to be careful about these things. At the end of the day, when it comes to paying for something or not, whether it's through tithing, through peer pressure donations, or whatever, you have to make a choice. Do you want to work with an amateur or a professional? It's as simple as that. Right. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.